to Friday Fuel, which is a session of getting away from your desk and learning about something interesting. So today is the first of the second season of Friday Fuel. Today we have the fantastic John Clarvis, who's come to talk about data, hopefully in a creative way, all the creative things you can do with data. So without much further ado, I'll pass over to Mr. Clarvis.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to talk about being creative with numbers, and not in how I'm going to be creative with numbers on a timesheet like that today, but as in making them up, but different ways of using data and looking at it just in terms of numbers and the kind of beauty of mathematics and how interesting it can be. So this is a monk called, it's not Seneca, it's Bacon. He said that mathematics is the gate and the key to sciences. So basically you can't understand anything unless you can add up your equations. You can't make equations. You want to know about physics, you need to know about atoms, you want to know about atoms, you need to know about maths. You need to know how to add up basically, and any great kind of scientific advances come from understanding maths a lot better, and this has been a thing throughout history, because you can't engineer things like maths, and all of the great things are made from maths. Three of the biggest things that have happened as a result are the number zero, so that's the spiral mirror net, which is in Iraq, and I'm not sure if America's blown it up yet or not, but that's a building that's only possible thanks to Indian scholars who discovered the number zero, which means that all the numbers added up. Prior to that, everything was a little bit lag behind and buildings would fall down because you couldn't work out where the beginning was. The Apollo Moon project, you needed to work out how orbits work, so you needed pi for that, and you needed lots of cosines just to work out how to get something on the moon. And pi also led to farming, which is why we're all in this room together at the minute, because it works out that if you know your intervals properly of time, you can plant the crops in time, and you don't need to go hunting for animals and scavenging and sit around and do consumer and sit in meetings like this rather than running around in the jungle catching animals. So this is the big thing of numbers. And I'm going to take you through the process of what I've learned of trying to come up with creative ideas for things to do with data and things to do with numbers. The three processes that I've come through are maths in Greek means observing patterns. So all maths is in Greek is looking at patterns of things, and they were very into drawing lines in sand and seeing if you got one thing and then got two, what happened when you did that, what happened if you multiplied that by two, and what were the patterns that you got. I spelled experimenting wrong, which is good since I used to be an experimental psychologist, but just experimenting, seeing what happens and seeing what happens when you run models together, and experiencing novel things. So they're all kind of related in one way or another, but looking at how novel experiences, experimenting with them and observing the patterns of them can actually lead to good copying and creative ideas. This does relate to 3D printing and data production as well. So this inspired one of my ideas, which is search momentum that I'm going to talk about. So this is a psychologist called R.D. Lamb, who was I went to a conference on him about a year ago with a friend of mine who's a clinical psychologist. And he said that behaviour, psychological behaviour, is a result of language patterns. He said that the human being is nothing more than expressions of speech. And so what someone says is essentially who they are. The way they think, the patterns of how they think dictate who they are, and that's purely dictated by their vocabulary and by their access to language. So this is essentially someone with an anxiety problem, and this is an example of a knot that is getting caught in. So there's all these different things, and there's no real escape from these linguistic knots that have caught something due to the beliefs that they've got. That led on in a slightly less dark way into search momentum, which is the behaviour of essentially looking at people's language that they use on the internet, how they engage with search, how they want to find things out about the world, as a language pattern. So splitting that into the paradigm of the momentum that we use at NEC, we have active stage things. So when someone actually wants to do something, they speak much more differently than when they're just wanting to find something out, which is they use very verb-heavy phrases. So this is a language pattern that people will use again and again, is you can't dictate the rules of an action without talking about verbs, without using verbs in your language. Otherwise it'll be very passive and it won't really describe anything. There's then passive phrases, which is almost every other phrase that you come across. So phrases that are very adjective heavy or noun heavy are very, very descriptive. And this is, you couldn't do this manually, you can do this through reading. So this is looking at language and search in the same way that psychologists look at language as numbers and patterns, and again with that mathematical principle of seeing things as observations of patterns rather than just numbers. So looking at language in terms of numbers. What we can see when we plot these language as numbers on the graph is we get to see the credit range. So this is all the search behaviour for the credit cards, and we can see prior to 2009, which is when I'm guessing bailiffs started turning up the people's calls, is people were very active in searching for credit cards. So what they wanted the credit card, they wanted fast credit, and they wanted it immediately. They didn't think about looking at what APR was or anything like that. We can see after the credit started biting, people searching passively and doing passive behaviour actually became much more prevalent. People actually researched what a credit card was, how much they're going to have to pay back, who the suppliers were. We can see an actual behaviour change in there. So this is one way of looking at data in terms of inspired by kind of psychology and a novel experience of going to a conference full of what who describe themselves as anti-psychologists. This is essentially a program that I saw on how rockets work, which I was watching when my wife was away. I didn't let me watch that kind of thing normally. And this is normally when you think about a rocket going up, you just think it goes straight up, and then inevitably it'll come straight back down again. But once it leaves the orbit of Earth, it forms what's called an apoapsis and a periapsis, which is the highest point of the orbit and the lowest point. And this is actually how you get to the moon. So you don't just point a rocket at the moon and shoot it at it. You shoot it straight up, then you tilt it, and you get in an orbit, and you alter that orbit until you end up landing on the moon, because your orbit extends and extends and extends, you accelerate towards your apoapsis, and eventually you end up on the moon. So it's not just flying straight to the moon. And I didn't know that until this documentary. I just thought you put a man in a rocket and shot it at the moon and landed on it. But in fact, you have to do lots of complicated things. And this is the inspiration behind how Project Black works. The main algorithm behind it is that, I didn't make this logo by the way, is that Project Black essentially predicts what's going to happen on the internet, predicts what people are going to say, what stories are going to spread, how big they're going to be. And that's based on the idea of this apoapsis, in that a story on the internet is essentially like a little rocket that someone's sending off, and it's going to get so high and it's going to get so big, but eventually it's got to return back to Earth, and that's the orbit that it's essentially going in. Is it going to achieve escape velocity? So is that rocket going to have, that story going to have enough velocity to actually escape the gravity of all the other stories and pulling it back down? Or is it going to achieve an orbit, and is it going to accelerate, and how big is that story going to be? Which is part of the algorithm of how it works, is that there is a built-in return factor on a story, similar to how an apoapsis calculation works on a rocket, basically. So essentially the initial velocity almost equals the exit velocity as it comes out. So that's a kind of, I don't know which one that fits into. I think it's mostly kind of experimenting, because I wanted to look at all this data and experiment into how social stories were a bit like a rocket. So maybe that's more abstract thinking. For those who don't know what Project Black is, essentially you get stories on the internet, clusters them into stories, that read them all, predicts how big they're going to get and how long they're going to last, and then sends you an email if anything bad's going to happen. So if you any one of my clients, it's quite useful to get an early warning system, and then it'll tell you if it's worth bothering with or not. The final part I'm going to talk about is observing patterns in terms of being creative with numbers. So this again is a novel experience. I had a Hindu wedding for my Hindu, and at the wedding they have a conch shell which the priest blow on at the beginning of the wedding to summon all the deities. And it's an engraved thing. It's a very beautiful thing. It makes quite a cool sound if you're going to do it. It's quite what you'd imagine like a battle horn sounding like before a big battle. And that got me thinking about why this was chosen. And initially, it's obviously because it's the only thing available 2,000 or 3,000 years ago. That's the only instrument you actually have access to, which is a tool to make a proper instrument. So you just blow in a shell. And I wondered why it made a noise, because the point of a shell isn't really to make a noise, it's to protect an animal from doing that. And there's a pattern here, which is called Fibonacci sequence, which essentially explains an awful lot of things in science. I was talking about orbits earlier, so all of the planets in the universe and everything orbits around this kind of system. And essentially, I'm going to break my microphone. That one equals that one plus itself, and that just escalates out and out and out and out and out. And so you end up with these very, very beautiful patterns in nature that you see. So when you look at galaxies in the sky, they're all swirling around this kind of system. When you look at shells or in sunflowers as an example, and I've got a live example on a computer, you get this kind of pattern emerging, which is a very harmonic shape, it turns out. So I looked at what the frequencies of notes are on a string. So if you think about a guitar, the first fret is always quite big, and the ones at the bottom are quite small. And that is a result of this very similar frequency. It's an 18 to 20 ratio. But essentially, as the notes get higher, the difference between the notes gets shorter. that is plotted in a graph like this, which, if you extend it around, is very, very close to a Fibonacci sequence, but not quite, but very, very similar. So, what I've done, and unfortunately, it's taken 42 hours to print this instrument, and someone bumped into me on the tube and smashed all the paper off it, which is annoying. But essentially what I've done is I've 3D printed this instrument, which is a Fibonacci sequence in an instrument. So this circular area here is essentially the amplifier that builds it. That is the centre of the point, so that's where the calculation is done from. And the string runs from here and connects through all of these intervals at the end around here, pulling in at this little bong looking thing at the end. So each one of these intervals is a Fibonacci sequence. So it's not 12-note chromatic scale as we currently know it, it's a Fibonacci sequence scale, which honestly is quite similar to the 12-note scale that you hear now, but essentially it's a new form of scale in a new kind of instrument. So I've made a version of it here, which I was hoping to play, but someone at Canary Wharf barged into me and smashed all the pegs off it. But if you want to have a look at the things afterwards, come have a look. This is a calibration, and that's it's not quite Fibonacci sequence, it's a phi sequence, which comes by default in the printer, and prints off just a maths in 3D on it, basically. That, in short, is how I do creativity with numbers. If you've got any questions or anything that you want to ask, or anything you want printing, let me know.